one way to get a feel for it is let's have a go. Okay, we'll have a go at the model. So what we're going to do is you're going to choose various areas of one's life. Values are what drives people. What's important to people: health, education, well-being, business, career, finance. There's many things that are important to people. There's no reason why you can't change a component in this wheel, for want of a better word, but there's no reason why you can't turn it into a performance profile. So you could, in essence, put what makes a great staff member, and I talked about it in previous seminars, the HPI, Human Performance Indicator. You put enthusiasm, confidence, motivation, and scale it from 1 to 10. Or you could, the components of a good athlete, the components of a footballer, the components of a tennis player, so fitness, nutrition, psychology. But let's sort of focus on this, and we'll keep it really experiential for now. And we're going to come back to this afternoon, so we've got some more stuff to cover. But what I'd like you to do on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being high, let's keep it experiential. Let's have a goal. Write down where your business career is. Where are you in terms of where you want to be? So if you sort of follow me for now and keep experiential. So scale 1 to 10, 10 being high, where would you say you are from 1 to 10 in relation to your business, to your career? Yeah. However you want it could be business, career, work, whatever works for you. And I would go with the first number that comes to your mind. That 6-second response. I wouldn't mull over it for too much. I think the first number that sort of comes to you, you can write it down. And then we can come back to this afternoon is talk about ways. Talk about ways that you can get towards where you want to go. So if my business career is at 7, I want to go to 10, perhaps I want to go to 8 first. And to get to 8, I will do X, Y, Z. Does that make sense? So on my journey, then I can quantify what I need to do. Okay. So we start the end in mind. So yesterday Colin volunteered the end in mind, where he wants to be. Now you can sort of scale back, and where is he in correlation to where he wants to be? Okay, so where he wants to be is at 10, perhaps is at 8. What do I need to do to get to that 10? Okay, we'll go over it in more detail. Finances, 1 to 10. Okay, so maybe you want to be a billionaire. Okay, and at the moment, you're starting your first step in a 1,000-mile journey. Let's say you want to be a millionaire, whatever you want financially. Let's say you want to make 100 grand a year. I don't know what you want to achieve. Let's say you want your business to generate so much revenue. Let's say you want to charge £300 a session, £500 a session, whatever it is you want to do. Then where are you in proportion to that? And then we can start looking at what you need to do to get there. Okay, you with me? Does that make sense? Yeah. Does that make sense? Okay. So write down where you are in finance, or maybe you are at 10. I don't know. And you can do this with your client too, to profile where they are, and then you can do the grower model, the SMART approach to go to that next level. Health, 1 out of 10. Where would you say you are? 10 being high, and that could incorporate however you're going to measure your health is entirely up to you. You might, from a medical point of view, I'm not a medical person, but maybe you might consult a medical person if there's an issue you want to work with. It could be just generally you want to be able to run a marathon. That might be more in fitness goal, but that might sort of spill over into the health as well. It might be related to blood pressure, to heart rate. I have health goals that correlate with heart rate, blood pressure. That's why you see me wearing these silly monitors sometimes. And I sort of have a goal of blood pressure, of heart rate, and I work towards that. I'm a medical person, but I've got a sports science background too, so I kind of think, okay, I'll go for a run 4 times a week. Does that sort of make sense? Okay, so where you are, where you want to be. Family and friends. And this is a really useful one, because some of you guys are going to be working with directors of companies where they spend so much time. You know, there's no saying, you know, you sort of juggle balls, and you know, one falls down and it's hard to sort of keep them going. And if a ball falls down, you scrape it as a business goal, then you've got more chance of rebuilding it. But sometimes, you know, people get so focused on one area that they neglect the other areas. So you could really focus on one area, think, you know what, I'm going to sort my career out, and put your family, friend, romance, whatever you call it, on the back burner, and that I'm going to go back to it later. For me, it's collectively every day doing or doing things maybe regularly. They're going to move you towards where you want to go, rather than let me focus on this and I'll come back to that. Does that make sense? So I'm going to put all my energy now in business and forget everything else. And when I get my business to here, what happens if you do that, do you think? Yeah, and then you go back to that. It's like fighting fires. So I'm fighting fire, aren't I? Where I'm going to focus all on the relationship, but then I don't focus on my business. So for me, the solution would be get an idea of where you are collectively and devote a proportion of your time on every area, depending on what drives you the most. Now, one can't tell one else how they should live their life, but if your priority is a relationship, then maybe you want to spend more time on that. If your priority is a business, maybe you want to spend more time on that. That's your call. We've all got 24 hours a day, by the way. We've all got 24 hours a day. How you manage your time is key. People say to me, Jim, how on earth do you do all that you do? I see you here, I see you there, I see you everywhere. You write this, you write that, the other. Well, you plan your time.
Good planning.
Precisely. You plan your time, you work ways around it. So if I'm on a plane, then I might get a dictaphone and work towards a book. I might write a research paper. If I'm there, I'm there. I'm in this course now, I'm here 100%. You've got me 100% because I've planned for it. Okay? Tonight, because I love music, I'm going to go see a band and I'm going to be there. I'm going to enjoy every moment. So the key for me is being able to, and we'll talk about later, having that sort of weekly plan, that daily plan. And not living your life meticulously of a plan, but at least having the idea, what am I doing? Because I see a lot of people out there, they do that, they're being busy fools. It's like they're chasing their tail. Well, what the hell are they doing? They go to these networking groups where there's nothing to be had. Have champagne and a bit of food and a few prawn sandwiches at the network group, and there's nothing to be had there, And I'm not sort of saying they're all not good, but you've got to be very clear. Well, if you're fishing in water that there's no fish, then you've got no chance. So, okay, and think family and friends, where am I? Okay, remember your family and friends, it's important that you sort of have downtime too. Okay, where are you at 10? Romance, relationship, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not advising people going into a relationship, but if it's important to you, it's important to you. And maybe the relationship you're in, working on that. Now, don't take it as a given. If you're in a relationship, it's going to work well. You've got to work at it, one would think. But that said, I don't think any of these components are going to bring happiness on their own. I think collectively, there's plenty of people in relationships that are lonely in the relationship with people on their own. So it's about within, finding yourself within, So I think for me, it could be, working on the direction you're in, or if you're not in one and you want to go in one, then working towards that, or even just self. Go to the highest vibration level yourself. There's plenty of people that meet somebody else that think they're the answer. No one's the answer. Raise your vibration level. People sometimes don't fall in love, they fall in trauma. And what I say is that they don't plan their life. They're so downbeat, they're looking for salvation from someone else. And someone else comes along, and in the first 2 months, everything's exciting, the oxytocin's running, and all these chemicals are running, dopamine's running. They don't see the faults in the other person, and they forget their own faults. They don't work on themselves. They don't go to the gym, they don't build their business, they don't do anything but put all eggs in one basket. And then after the chemicals wear out, they start seeing the person's faults, they start realising they've not progressed themselves. And in the end, really, it's like from the fire to the frying pan. Work on self. And this is about working on self. Raise your vibration, your energy levels. Be the person that you want to meet. and you'll meet more people like you want to be. And for me, it's unhealthy to expect anyone else to be your fulfillment. It should be an extension of self. And that's just my own view on things and my own view on making sure that we keep growing. We're ever evolving, Personal growth. Out of 10, what would you say you are? Write down where you're going to be. And growth could be meditation, yoga, anything really, education. People say to me, Jim, why do you always seem to be doing some sort of study or research? Why do you? Because I like to grow. I'm a lifelong learner. I know the hippocampus in the brain shrinks in time. I don't want my hippocampus shrinking in a hurry, so I know if I keep learning, I'm building new neurons in my brain. Now, I'm not just putting it down to that, but I love to learn. So, people saying, why just sign up for this major research you're doing now? It's so much to take on. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm learning. I love to learn. So personal growth, think of ways you can grow, meaningful to you. It could be education, training, your own path, your own way to grow, creating experiences for yourself, going hiking. Okay, I love to hike. Not everyone likes to hike. I love to hike and I love a bit of surf and I find I'm growing when I'm doing that because I'm humbled by nature. If I'm on a mountain, look up and think, goodness me, everything's irrelevant for this moment. You're out in the ocean, in the sea, you're just like a drop in the horizon. It's like, well, you know what? You just get a perspective on how irrelevant a lot of our problems really are in the big scheme of things. Not undermining one's issues, but when you think about it. Fun and recreation, out of 10. If you're not enjoying life, then what's it all about? And I love music. There's no secret behind that. And I do my own music. You probably heard some of my tunes on iTunes. And I love doing it. I have fun doing it. I really love it. It's my absorption and doing stuff you love doing. Fun can be sport. I love sport too. Making time for yourself. You don't want to burn out of 10. Whatever you find, whatever floats your boat, whatever you enjoy doing, I think that's important to have downtime. If you're training a sporting team, Colin, with great athletes, they need their downtime. They need to be able to, in a training camp, they need to get away from that. Yeah. They need time away to refresh and recharge the battery. If you're training a CEO, they need time away. And so do you guys too, if you're a coach, Who coaches a coach? Yeah, who motivates the motivator? The digital environment. We talked about the environment having a big impact on us yesterday. I talked about the rat park experiment around addiction, how many years ago the idea around addiction was based on morphine and water in a cage, and rats taking the morphine, the rat would take the morphine, eventually the rat would die, and then someone came along and did an experiment, the rat park experiment, and what they decided was if they gave a rat park all the things that rats would love to do, cheese and other rats and fun and games, and they found that the rats wouldn't take morphine. And I'm always going to get someone saying to me, Jim, like someone said yesterday, what about people who've got everything, got their rat park and still take substances? Well, I'm not relating this to addiction, and there are people who've got everything you ever wish for and they do take substances. But what I'm saying is that there are a lot of people who also, the environment shapes their reality. There are people who, for example, go into operations and they take substances like morphine. That's, you could argue it's a type of heroin, really. They come back home not still taking it. You break a leg, you go home not taking that anymore because you're in a different environment. Now, I say that loosely, and you can do your own research, and I'm not implying anything about addiction. That's another story for another day. But what I'm saying, your environment around you, proximity is power. Okay? If you're doing what you love doing, then, and I wrote a paper, a dissertation on addictive behaviour around gaming and mobile phone use, and you found that people who were taught to manage their anxiety, people who were taught to enjoy other things, people who were taught to enjoy playing sport, enjoy doing music. They weren't on the gaming as much. Now, you could argue if that's the more productive activity than gaming, it's your call, but really in the end, in my world, I think learning music, learning to play a piano, learning to play a cello, learning to play a sport is probably more productive than sort of shooting people up in the damn game for dopamine. That's my thing. So the environment's key. If you've got energy sappers around you, the vampires, they sap at your neck.
In the office, it's quite a toxic environment, the dynamics.
Well, it can be.
Yeah,
it can be. There's plenty of them out there, and there's not a great deal you can do always, but you can be the person and set your own standard. But I think from proximity point of view, the environment is key. It really is. It makes a big impact. You're the power of 5. You are the 5 people you hang around with the most. That's a guarantee. Okay? So it's really important to choose wisely, I think. And I know everyone's got friends and family and think, I can't get rid of my friends. And no one's saying to do that. We all love our friends and family, but it's making sure that if they are and don't support our vision, then we appreciate them for who they are. Don't need to convince them. It's your life. You own your life. And get around people who do support your vision, if that's the case. That's the way I see it. So I'll give you an idea. We'll come back this afternoon. One way to get out to the open, to get what's in here out there. And you can do it with your clients, even in business. Because people are people. People say to me, Jim, what's your secret in business? What do you do different than everybody else? Well, I treat the CEO, I treat the cleaner, I treat the computer programmer all the same. No different to me. I treat them all the same respect. I treat them like I want to be treated. But also what I do is I realise they're a human being behind it all. I remove the label. And I talk about things outside work. I do go into this. I do tell them, you know what, let's look at the bigger picture. I do it a lot. Say, okay, what about the big picture? When they get demotivated, when they get frustrated. Well, what's the big picture? Why are you here for? Why are you working for then? What's it all about? Let's look at things on a broader level. Let's look at the big picture. In the end, and we all want to live well. We all want to be happy and enjoy nice emotions. So we will come back to this. We will come back to this afternoon to help you. We're going to change the profile a bit so you can adapt it. That's a good model to use for your coaching, by the way. Human beings are storytellers. Okay? If they're not telling stories about themselves, telling stories about other people. And that's significant. It's a good way to unravel the distortion, cognitive distortion. We're going to touch on this afternoon. Ways to do that, to unpick people's storyline. Okay? We're sculpted by experiences. Okay, you are everyone that you've ever met in all your life and every experience you've ever had from the very moment you're born, that first breath you took as a baby, to where you are now, you're sculpted by experiences. Okay, that's one of the things that sculpts you. Okay, human communication is best conceived as an art, not science. Okay, for me, NLP, hypnosis, whatever you learn, it's all irrelevant. It should be an art, not a science. What I mean by that, you give people experiential activities to do, to stimulate realizations, giving people tasks to do, giving people, because there's no equation for happiness. You don't say 2 + 2 and you're happy. And art is perceived differently. Who likes music? Okay, you like music, and you listen to a song, we all have a different interpretation of that song. Who likes films? Okay, so we all like films. Why do we watch films? Okay, who's watched the Titanic? Why watch the Titanic for? You know what's going to happen. The ship's going to go down. Why bother watching? Because you want to invoke an emotion. So for me, the art of communication about emotion, being in the best states. Sorry about the ship gesture there, because I didn't mean that. Yeah, Kazi works on the ship, so your ship, the ship's the same. Okay, so let's be creative, let's be innovative. Okay, let's be creative in the way we do things. Using jokes, using metaphors. Yesterday I did a hypnosis session with Colin, who wonderfully volunteered, and you probably think, well, how does he come up with what he comes up with? Well, you just let things be. What the person wants. You have a map. the map is where he is now, where he wants to be. Well, how do we process information for our senses? See, hear, feel. Let's use that as a navigation. Because I can never imagine a Michelangelo or Da Vinci or a Stephen Jobs writing just a SMART goal. MS is for this, and they're useful, but let's bring it to life. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? You know, really important stuff. So let's be creative rather than didactic. And there is a place for didactic. We're not ruling that out. So step 1, step 2, step 3. Yeah, there is a place for that. But there's also a place for being innovative and creative. And, okay, how about doing this? And how about signing up for, suggesting someone signs up for a presenting skills class or a drama class, or someone signs up for exercise. And being task oriented is quite useful for me. Someone will grow. Suggest to do a workshop, because you know by doing the workshop you're going to have to evolve into that person you want to be. Okay, so really, when you think about the brain, we'll talk about it more this afternoon. 86 billion neurons in the brain. Okay, so there are trillion cells, and if you think that as a coach, and I train coaches, therapists around the world, and I think the biggest burnout for me is the coach thinks they're the all-powerful, mighty one. I am the all-powerful. I've got all the answers. You listen to me. It's an absolute absurd notion. Because really, if you can affect someone's mind, and for me, it's about invoking realizations, invoking experiential activities to change someone's perception of reality. But I mentioned yesterday where someone could be in a pool and they're drowning, and if you can't swim, you dive in, then you're no good to anybody. Someone else can't swim and they dive in. So you can give them the rope, you can give them the stick, they may or may not take it. But as a coach, you've got good motivational skills to maybe they take the stick. Because the best driving instructor in the world, if the person doesn't want to drive, well, they'll learn to drive. No, they have to want to drive. So if you've got no desire to drive, it doesn't matter how good I'm instructed driving. You know, even the Formula One teacher could train somebody if no one doesn't want to do it. There must be some desire there. We can leverage it. We can find what pushes their buttons. Because one might be motivated to do one thing and not something else. So we can leverage it. And how we can do that is find out what drives the person. What are their values? What drives them? It's important to you, you'll do it. If not, you find an excuse. It's easy. So if you can work out what drives that person based on their goal, why, you've got a strong enough why, what's important to you, okay? They'll find a way to do it. They'll get up in the morning, they'll go where they've got to go and do what they've got to do. I'm sure of it. They'll give it a go. It doesn't mean anything to them, and they probably won't do it. So you've got to find a why, we'll talk about later on, to leverage it. And for me, I mentioned before, in coaching, and this is, I have an approach where I push people as far as they can tolerate. So it's sort of like, okay, as far as they can tolerate, without sort of pushing them too much. Extend the comfort zone. Does that sort of make sense? Where you got the goal, and that's 10 steps away from where you are. Take 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, maybe 1 back, 1 forward, and work in progress, rather than sink or swim. Because I think if you do sink or swim, you put stress on people. What do you think happens if you put stress on people? Precisely. So let's work on the principle of desensitization, not in the conventional psychological sense, in the sense that, you know, when you sort of see a beautiful swimming pool like that, and you think it looks really warm, and you go in and it's cold, you dip your toe, you think I'm not going there, then you put your toe again, and it sort of warms up on you. You ever been in a cold swimming pool? And you're in there. So just, you know, step by step. Okay? Let's sort of...
Where is that?
Good question, really. Good question. Okay, so step by step, you can take 1 step, 2 steps, and then all of a sudden, you're in the pool and you don't even notice. You don't even notice. And I think you see a lot sometimes, and you see people with anxiety, for example, where, because the anxiety sort of comes out of the blue like that, they want to get rid of it like that. And anxiety for me is like when you're in a dark room. It takes longer in a dark room to adapt. It takes you about 20 minutes in the dark room to adapt. When you get into the light, you adapt straight away. So for me, when the anxiety comes along, it's just okay, telling the person to control their muscle energy. This too shall pass. Because they think because anxiety comes like that, you can get rid of it like that. Sometimes, okay, the brain is implicit. Just breathe, it'll pass. Take yourself away. It's okay to be anxious. The brain's working well. We'll do the cognitive side later. So, what I'm implying is that the same applies to the goal where you put someone in so much stress and it's not even enjoyable no more. So in the most beautiful pool in the world, you're not enjoying it because you sort of, you're not in the moment. So the goal for me is the journey. Some stress is good, but if you put someone in too much stress, the brain does not like a lot of stress. The brain likes familiarity. So we can extend that familiarity. People say, well, you've got to do something that scares you every day. Well, it depends what it is that scares you, for goodness sake. But I know if you dropped you off in the country, you couldn't speak the language, you had no money, would you feel comfortable? It'd be too unfamiliar for you. So, so we want to sort of give the brain some familiarity and guide the person. A good coach can guide someone. Okay? I'll catch you if you fall. Superman doesn't have to jump the building or Superwoman in one bound. Just get there. Enjoy journey. Some researchers take a reduction approach to answer the question of interest, which means they look for the simplest possible system that can be used to address the question. Often their system is, in research, in science, is tissue culture, where the brain tissue is dissociated, brain cells are grown and studied in a tissue culture dish in a laboratory. What I'm saying is some people use a reduction approach. They sort of look for the simplest answer, and that goes on across a broad range of areas. Talk more as we go along. And some people use a more holistic approach. They uncover every stone. In our holistic approach, what one must consider is someone's genetic makeup. Now, I'm not a medical person, and I don't cross that boundary, and I'll talk more about that in boundaries and coaching this afternoon, but we must consider that all these things, their psychology, the state of their mental health at the time, their social environment has an impact. That all contributes to their health and behaviour. None of these factors, biology, psychology and sociology on their own are sufficient to describe behaviour, but the interaction between them will determine the development of individual behaviour. Okay, so you are the interaction of many different things and your experiences. So you've got biological influences. And the biology could be infection. It could be physical trauma, hormones, nutrition. Okay, so biology plays a role on behaviour. You'd be very naive to think not, because eye colour, skin colour, hair colour, there are genes in our brain, there are enzymes, there are cells, there are correlation. Certain things correlate. So biology plays an influence. I'll talk more about that later on. And the reason I say that is because you have compassion for your clients and empathy, and for yourself if you're not where you want to be. Because you didn't choose your biology entirely. Now, some people can smoke 1 million cigarettes a day and never get anything, and some people don't smoke and they get something, and life's not always fair. But I'm not implying that one should smoke. What I'm saying is that things don't always work out the way that we tend to work out. So we're not in control of that. You don't control that to a large extent. You've not chosen your parents, your genetic makeup, and that influences many things. Psychological influences. They influence your behaviour. Emotions, attitude, self-control. Now you've not chose a lot of that too. In the first 5 years of your life, when you're most impressionable, you didn't choose the people around you, and they had the most impact on your emotion, attitude, and self-control. First 7 years in print phase. You can change, that's important. Social factors. Well, you chose some people, you didn't choose others, but you can choose now. but it impacts our behaviour too. Family, peer group, economic status. You know, someone could tell you, just be happy, man, just be happy, everything's good. But you could be losing your business. You could be breaking up a relationship. You could, you know, be living on the street. It'd be difficult to be happy then. You know, not easy to be walk around smiling on your face and your world's falling apart. So what I'm saying is compassion. What I'm saying is have compassion for people and for yourself, because it's not your fault in the situation you're in entirely, and it's not their fault entirely. If someone's overweight, it's not their fault entirely. I heard a motivational speaker one time say to people, if you're overweight, it's your fault, you've got to take responsibility. What a stupid notion. Because at the end of the day, it's not entirely their fault. They do have to take responsibility, but you know, advertising campaigns so they eat all these horrible foods. You drive on the motorway, there's a fast food outlet everywhere you go. People have babies, they have life changes, they have stress, they have pressure, influences their behaviour. So it's not entirely their fault. And if you beat them up more than they can handle, they won't just eat one biscuit, they'll eat the whole packet. You eat a biscuit, you're not going to put 10 stone overnight. It's what you do collectively. So what I'm saying is that, you know, let's look at it this way. Let's look at it like this. Let's look at it like this. If we can sort of be and take these factors in consideration, you know, you could be born in the most loving family. You could be born to two wonderful parents. You could have all the good genes. Biology serves you really, really well, and your family's really loving, and they care for you, and they nurture you. When you cry, they soothe you. They come and cuddle you every night. Baby likes to be cuddled, and they influence you really well. Then socially, you're in the good circles. And then all of a sudden, things looking good for you at 2-3 years of age. And then the local drug dealer says, I can't have children, I'm going to steal that baby, and takes you. And then all you see is violence. All you see is pain. All you see is bad things. And they give you drugs too. Will your life be different, do you think, than what it would have been? And you didn't choose to be taken. You didn't choose all that. That's what I'm saying. Compassion is key. Empathy is really important to have, you know, and years ago, I could get this wrong. The story's a long time, I heard about it, but you can do your own research. But I remember the case of Charles Whitten's story, and it was a story in the 60s in Texas, and I was talking at the time, I was studying at Loughborough Uni doing sports conditioning, and I was talking to a lecturer, and I had a fascination in psychology and the mind, and I was doing physiology, and he said that he talked about biology and how certain things can affect our behaviour. And at the time, before Google and all that stuff, and you probably get the story on Google now, he talked about the Charles Whitten case. And you probably won't know who he is, and if you get a chance to read about it, the story goes, one morning he got up and just shot his wife, shot his mother, and I think he shot 20 people at the Bells Tower at Texas University, his way to university. And what was scary, the 6 months before that, apparently he was saying that his mood is changing. He was getting counselling, I think. He was getting counselling, so the story said, and he was getting more and more irate. He couldn't work out why. Didn't know why. And he said that he wanted an autopsy when he passed away, and they did. And when they did the autopsy, they found a tumour growing in his brain, in a part of the brain that penetrates the cell lining that has the same impact as, you know, rabies? Mad dog syndrome, and the tumour was growing that close, I think, to it might have been the amygdala, I'm not sure. I stand corrected. It's a long time since I read about the story, but I'm saying that, and the reason I say that is that no counselling, I would think, in the world was going to help him. And now we've got MRI scans, we didn't have them, but now we know. And now I'm not saying everyone with a tumour is going to go and do that, because they're not. I'm not sort of condoning. I'm just saying that you can see that there are influences in place that are beyond our control. Okay, this day and age, MRI scan, it'd be a different story. But back then, didn't know. So I'm saying, you know, these things make an impact on people. Because you think about it this way, you could break a finger, like a small part of your finger, and it won't have no difference on your behaviour. But if you damage a part of the brain, it's about big, like a pinky finger, maybe like a nail on your finger, you potentially damaging trillions of of cells. And that can have a big impact on your behavior. So trauma, if someone bumps their head, drug use, all these things have an impact on people. It'd be nice to think otherwise. Massive behavioural changes. And I say that because as a coach, we need to take that into consideration. We talk about that later in boundaries, performance and clinical. As a coach, you are not the resident therapist. If the person has an issue beyond your remits, you're probably best to send them to someone who can help them. If I'm employed as a coach in an organisation, so if they've got a gambling issue, they might need the right help. So the psychologist in club might focus on the goals that they've got towards where they want to play, how many goals a season. Does that sort of make sense? So you're sticking around your organisational goals. Okay? We'll talk more about that this afternoon because that's important in boundaries. Okay? There's a fine line between clinical and performance. Sticking to our remit and using skills as an extension to the remit. Someone says, well, I've just cut my arm and it's looking green and infected. What would you do? Would you treat it? No, because if you're not a medical person, it's the same as the mind. Someone says, and also about disclosure, confidentiality, we talk about that, but you talk about confidentiality. Okay, someone discloses to me, if someone says they're suicidal, I'm not a priest, it's not a confession. I have to tell them, I'm going to have to, if they tell me certain things, I'll disclose. If they tell me they feel like killing the boss, then people say these in jest, don't they? But ultimately, we've got to weigh up. And our common sense is always common practice, but you've got to sort of get your head around. And we'll talk about that more this afternoon. They're important things, they really are important things. Is everyone okay so far? We're all good? Yeah. Good. So, what are the functions of emotions? What do we think? Why do we have these emotions? Colin, why do we have emotions?
I suppose some element of protection, safety.
Okay. Anyone else? Why do we have emotion? Yeah.
To express.
Okay. So, it's a trigger behaviours. To trigger behaviour in a response to the environment to increase survival. Okay? It triggers. It gives us a better chance to survive. Now you might be thinking, well, an interview's not going to do any, it's not survival. A presentation's not survival. It is to the brain. The brain thinks so. The brain, it might not be a tiger chasing the person, but the brain might think, yeah, I'm danger. It's not the interview, it's the meaning you give the interview, we talk about later. So the brain's there to serve you, protect you. So the emotions are a trigger in the individual species. Because years ago, before my time, used to be tigers roaming the earth and all these sort of things on the earth. You'd have to react fast. Tiger running about, survival. Definitely. You've got a brain, part of the brain that the limbic system that has got to act fast. You've got time to think about it. Okay. So different brain circuitries, they release different neurotransmitters and hormones. Electrical stimulation, certain brain regions can trigger emotional behaviours. Okay? Our feelings are triggered by our thoughts, beliefs, interpretation of the world. We'll touch on that with the ABC model shortly. We'll show you how it's our interpretation of the event. And that's really important because if you're coaching people, it's what their thoughts are and how they impact their feeling and their behaviour and their physiology. You can challenge the thoughts. Okay, if Colin believes if he walks across the field, he's going to get attacked by a tiger, and he's adamant it's going to happen, I can challenge that thought, and he'll feel different about walking across. He thinks it's a beautiful sunny day out there, I'll go for a nice walk. So you can challenge the thought. If you're thinking, they're doing redundancies at work and you're really scared because you're going to get made redundant, but you can make the assumption. Or you see your best friend in town, they don't say hello, they don't like me no more. Maybe they don't like you, but maybe they just didn't see you. Okay, so we're going to sort of look at the brain now. We're going to. I haven't got a real brain. Maybe next time I'll bring a real one in. Okay, and we're going to sort of a bit of a. So I think this is Jim's theory. This is one of my theories, and I'm happy people will challenge me. I've got no issue with that. But I think the brain's got a negativity bias because of survival instinct. I think the brain automatically screens for danger. And it used to do that years ago. And I think that evolves in years gone by. Before my time, again, when there were dangers that we don't have now, because dangers we've got now are, bills, pressure, work, and the brain responds the same way. But so you'd go for a walk in town. Okay, you'd go for a walk in a new environment. And what was the story that you'd tell when you got back to the tribe? You tell them about danger. I saw this tiger, I saw this lion, I saw this tribe. So human beings are good storytellers. And you come back and you wouldn't tell them about nice grass, you wouldn't tell them about a nice tree, you wouldn't tell them about a nice sunny day it was, you tell them, watch out for this. So at Christmas time, you're going to go to 10 stores and 9 will treat you really nice. And they'll give you tea, biscuits, and they're nice and give you a good discount. And then one store is rude and abrupt and short-changed you. Who do you remember? Who do you go home and tell your partner about, your friends about? Yeah, because the brain, the bias, so the wiring, and I think that links to survival. And survival, one of the key elements of survival is being in a tribe. People are afraid of rejection. People follow sports teams, and I follow sports teams too. People are very tribal in their ways. We have countries, we've got groups of people. So people like to not be outside the tribe. The best way you're going to survive is to be in the tribe. If you're outside the tribe, your chance of survival are more minimal. So you've got this herd mentality that exists today.
Like that emphasis.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. And there's group polarisation. Of course it is. And if you don't believe me, you think you're sort of making it up, go on social media this afternoon or tonight, and you'll see. If people don't like a post within 2.5 seconds in neuroscience, they won't like it at all. And if they won't like a post that doesn't fit into their belief system, it's confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, okay? Not cognitive dissonance. If you see something that's outside your belief, it creates dissonance. You feel uncomfortable. If I challenge you on your BS belief system, you start feeling uncomfortable. So remember that as a coach. important to remember that, and we'll touch on that as we go along. And you're right, offices, culture and environment, it can get toxic, by the way. Yeah, I've seen it in businesses. I've seen some great environments. It's fantastic, but I can see it get toxic too. I interrupted you, so you're going to say. I thought you were going to. Okay. So I've seen, you know, and I think for me, there are things we can do and talk about today that can sort of shift the brain to see the beauty in the world, to see the good in people, to see the good in ourselves. Okay, because someone might be told very young that they're hopeless, worthless, ugly, and then they believe it if they're told often enough, and then people give them compliments, they reject the compliment. Other people say you look really, really well, don't even hear it. One person says, oh, I think your shoes are not great, and they ruminate, they stew over it. Okay, the experiment, talked about yesterday, I'm going to briefly go over it again, impulse. Walter and Michel, the marshmallow experiment, I think he did more than marshmallow, by the way. I say this loosely, and I researched this when I was doing a dissertation a year ago on impulse. I was writing a paper, and this is one of the papers I came across and used as a reference, because I was really fascinated by the story. And what he did, they got like marshmallows and chocolate biscuits, and you can look at the story if you want. It's on YouTube. I'm sure you can see his research papers. It's out there. But anyway, they say to the children, you can take one marshmallow, for example. I don't want to do his experimentation any disservice. You can research yourself. But along the lines, you can take one marshmallow now. The teacher said to the 5, 6-year-olds, come back in room in 10 minutes, you can have 2. So do you think the kids took it? Yeah. Some did, some didn't. But what's really interesting, I believe, and I stand corrected, that some of the kids that were monitored in years gone by, the ones who didn't take the second one, the ones who didn't take the first one, went for the second one, did better in functional skills. Go figure it out. So maybe part of the brain works better in certain people, but we can all be the best we can be. We know that being too impulsive can be a problem. If someone spills a drink on you Saturday night and you smack them one, you're impulsive, that's going to cause you a big problem, isn't that? Now you go to any offending institution and impulsivity is pretty damn hard. Okay? Not saying impulsivity is the be-all end-all, but I'm just saying that we can work on emotional intelligence. And you know what? I said earlier about stress in the brain. You do know under a lot of stress, and I'll talk about it later on, it shuts down the part of the brain that controls that. When the amygdala kicks in, I think there's a guy called Goleman that wrote a book on emotional high. I can't remember now. Was it? Is it Dan? Yeah. And he talked about emotional high. And all he's saying there, in mindfulness wisdom, is basically that our brain isn't as functional as it could be if we sort of don't do. These are my words, not his. If we don't work on strategies, we can do visualization, goal work, the behaviour. If we don't work on strategies that help us when our brain gets hijacked. And you can be, for example, I've trained politicians, I've trained managers in football to do press conferences. Someone asks you a question that goes against your belief system, cause cognitive dissonance, they rile you up. If you answer in the first 6 seconds, then you're going to get a far more emotional response than if you have a drink, not vodka by the way, and then give yourself 6 seconds, a more neocortex response. We'll touch on that shortly, how to do that. Then you're more clearer. No good if you get rolled up. You're a salesperson, someone says something bad to you, and you're all fired up and the cortisol's everywhere. Your next sales call won't go well if you don't let it go. Okay? So let's sort of look at this, and I'll put this in plain English shortly. So the thalamus, as you can see in the brain, the thalamus gets information from all the senses. Your little thalamus there, part of the brain. It gets information from all the senses, thalamus. See, hear, feel, okay? Smell, taste, all the senses. The thalamus, it gets the information, the brain being implicit, I'll talk later on. It sends information to the amygdala. Now the amygdala, or part of it It's made a lot of news in the last 10 years. Part of it's about the size of an almond, one of it's structured. And one of it's responsible, not only think it's responsible for, but one of the things it's responsible for that we'll touch on today is is fear response. You know the fight, flight, freeze that we talk about? Okay, so the thalamus sends information to the amygdala, and then the amygdala, it pre-screens for danger. Getting information from a part of the brain called the hippocampus that stores all of the past events. Okay? And then it activates the hypothalamus to trigger a fear response in the body. Has anyone ever been frightened and got scared or told bad news? Yeah? How did it feel? Did it feel great? Being cut up on a row? Being threatened? No, doesn't feel good, does it? And it sends the fear response in the body. Okay? So you're going to fight, you're going to freeze, or you're going to fly. That's the other one as well. Fight, flight, freeze. Okay? And the amygdala deactivates the frontal, the rational brain. You put a lot of stress on people, you're going to deactivate part of the brain. I think teenagers, what a bad rap they've got. You know, teenagers feel what we feel, but they can't process what we can process because their brain's not fully formed until about 22. And they get told off, and at 17, you should know what career you want to be in, and if you fail this, you're doomed. And man, if you can't enjoy your life, then when can you enjoy it? I know 17-year-olds have done amazing things, and teenagers have done amazing things, but what I'm saying is that take that in consideration. They feel what you feel. They don't have the processing power that the adult brain has. And that's spectrum, that's dependent, that's individual. Glands release chemicals called hormones. They're active molecules which create emotions and moods. And there you go. That's the process. So let's sort of look at it in plain English. From an English point of view, they did an experiment one time where I think the pseudonym they used was Little Albert. It was in the 1920s. And another paper, dissertation I wrote, I sort of cited this article. And they had a baby, and the baby was 11 months old. They screened him at 9 months old for any fears and phobias. All he had was loud noise and fear. Okay? They gave the baby a rat, a tame white rat, and they put it in the lap of the baby, and the baby would stroke. Okay? And then what they did is they'd get a hammer behind baby and make a big loud noise. Now you couldn't do the experiment now, it wouldn't be ethical, wouldn't be allowed, but in the 20s it might have been different. And what did the baby do, you think, eventually, when it saw the rat? How did the baby react when it saw the rat? It hit this big bang. When it saw the rat, even without the big bang, the baby was getting frightened. And that frightenedness extended to other toys that were fluffy too. So it built a link. Okay? It built a link with the noise and the rat. Okay? It built an association. Does that make sense? Pavlovian, the dog, you put food, you ring the bell, the dog salivates, you take the food away, ring bell. Okay? So the brain's pretty implicit. So we're drawing from information that we've got. Okay? You see an advertising campaign. I've talked about this before. Those who've done courses with me before, you'll know. The classic one is the commercial where you see this guy being hoisted on a ledge, and he's got like a six-pack, and he's like built like a one of those Adonises, and you see these girls are drooling over him. They're just drooling over this guy, this dude, and this guy's being hoisted up, and all you hear is 11:30, 11:30, 11:30. How's that for an anchor? And you hear the song and the jazz. And if I advertised this and said, you know what, here you go, I've got water, sugar, and chemicals, would you buy it for £1.50? Would you buy it off me for £1.50? Water, chemical? No? Okay. That was was it the Diet Coke advert that did that? Okay. So they're building a response, the emotional response. Advertisers do all the time. It's an anchor. You're associating. Okay? That's your memory. So people can be really implicit. So what I'm saying is that we'll do some exercises this afternoon that's going to really help to develop ourselves from that point of view. I once had a client, by the way, she couldn't work out why. Well, she wasn't a client, she came on course and she asked me a question, I did some work with her. And she said every time she got home at 6 o'clock in the evening, she couldn't go back out again. I said, and why is that? I don't know, I get panic attack, don't know why. I did regression hypnosis, and when I took it back with regression, it was really fascinating. What I found is that, now this is a hypothesis, it might not be, but it worked for her, it helped her a lot, is that the dog would bark when she got home from next door, and the dog that she got attacked when she was like 12-year-old, the same bark. So it's like the alarm bell. Okay? The alarm bell's going. The association's going. Okay? Are we okay? Okay, you got me? Okay. So there's a bit of a tennis match going on. Before we sort of break for lunch, there's a tennis match going on between the amygdala, the frontal cortex. Tennis match being like this. For example, you hear a big bang tonight in the kitchen at 3 in the morning, and your first thoughts are, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly. My baseball bat and run downstairs.
Yeah, exactly. And the adrenaline's pumping. Then all of a sudden you're walking downstairs, you think, actually I left the dishes on ledge. And then you're walking down, oh, I heard there's a burglary down the road. So a bit of a tennis match, you know, going on, and then you think, oh, I left the door open. And then what you see eventually is you see the dishes on the floor, everything's okay. The two come in agreement. You're still going to have cortisol. Now, sometimes cortisol lasts in the body for up to 4 hours, but you've got this tennis match going on. But the difficult thing is these things are implicit. They're under the radar. What we're going to do this afternoon is look at ways to dig them out, these automatic thoughts. Okay? Dig them out, they're under the radar. You don't even know they're there. When I used to work in care homes, in education, one time this guy came and sat next to me. I was working with this young girl, doing education in care home. She was quite a violent young girl who'd done many offences. And this guy came in and sat next to us, who was a care staff, and he did this. And because he did this, he goes, make me a brew. She got up and just smacked him, bang, 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 and restrained girl. I read the file later on, and apparently her uncle, who was an abuser, would do that before he abused. So she built 2 and 2. Brain's implicit. Yeah, I don't know why I react to certain things, I just react. Okay? We have reaction, we build connections. We're very Pavlovian, aren't we? And we then go and get treatment, coaching and therapy, but the only issue is that you're only one stressful event away from the seam opening up, I'm afraid. When people do treatment, they do CBT, they do this, they do the other, and I'm going to teach some CBT this afternoon, and they do all that sort of stuff, but in the end, under stress, the phobia comes back, under this, that comes back. So I want to give people some stuff to carry on doing. You don't go gym one day, you're in great shape, you don't eat one good meal and you're forever fit. People stuff to do, definitely, because you know what, under the degree of stress, and the amygdala deactivates large chunks of the neocortex, and we can't evaluate things rationally. Who's ever told someone off when you cut up on the road? Surely, I'm not the only one. Someone cuts you up on the road, you tell them off. Yeah. So we don't think rationally, not thinking they might be racing their wife to hospital. Yeah. Who's ever sent a text or an email and regretted sending it? Okay. So the people who get paid the most money are the ones who have got the most impulse control. They get paid the most, not IQ, because if you're going to go in for surgery, you want your surgeon, you better argue his wife or her husband the night before to have good, you're going to fly on the plane. They're the ones who make big decisions. Okay? Because if the amygdala deactivates, you get caught up in it. If Colin's got to take a penalty, and it's a big tournament, and he's thinking, oh no, if I miss, my fans, my family, I'm going to be banished forever. If he's got all these thoughts going in his head, and he's getting emotionally overwhelmed, and his heart's pumping, and he's really, really nervous, he's got to go back to time. Like when you see these footballers, they go back to a point where they didn't have any skill. They can't even take the penalty, because they can score 100 times in the training, but they can't do it in the big tournament, because they get deactivated. And how many business decisions do you make that aren't as good as they could be? How many things do we do, we act out of impulse and holding back? And how do we develop people to get better, to be more emotionally aware when you've got so much going on? And that's the stuff we're going to keep going on this afternoon. And a couple of things before we have our lunch, this is really important stuff, is there's a time delay. Like a TV show, all your senses have different architectures for processing. Meaning, your sight, hearing, touch process at different speeds. Okay? You're getting signals from everywhere at every moment. And you're breaking them down. From the NLP model, we break things down to a manageable level. From different places, they're getting processed at different speeds. Okay? Example, in the sprinting, you know, the athletic events, in the sprinting, why didn't they use a gun to start the race? The reason why they use the gun is because you can react quicker to a bang than a flash. Okay? Because your auditory cortex responds quicker to sound than your visual cortex. Okay? So neurons that fire together, wire together. If you practice being angry, miserable, sad, guess what? You're going to get better being that. Now, that's not saying that these emotions are bad entirely. They can be quite useful. Just don't stay there longer than you need to. Practice being upbeat, meditation, and you practice other things, then you're going to get better at that. You form superhighways in the brain. You reinforce pathways in the brain. So they communicate each other with with chemicals called neurotransmitters. And I've said before we break and come back, and we're going to get stuck into some really, really good stuff. When I first started working in business, and they gave me this sort of form, they said, okay, I said, what do you want to improve? And they gave me like this list. So what do you want to improve? This is a long time ago now, and it's about 15, if not even more years ago. I said, what do you want to improve? To the company director, he goes, oh, we've got these KPIs. I didn't even know what they were. I know what they are now, didn't know then. And I took them home with me, I studied them, and I thought these are all external attribution. In psychology, external attribution, and I said that they are uncontrollable factors. Can I control the weather? Can I control the referee? Can I control... No. Can I control what I do? Yes. Myself, internal attribution. So I went back next day and said, okay, these are important because you need to have a table to measure success on some level. It's useful. In football, we've got it. In golf, you've got it. In sales, you've got to have it. You've got to know how much you're selling. But you focus on those. What do you do to people, do you think? If I say, you're not meeting the targets, how are you going to react? What does that cause you?
Stress.
Yeah, and does the brain work well under stress? So why are they focusing on the KPI all the time? Causing more stress. And wonder why it's not going well. I came back next day, I said, focus on the HPI. What makes a great member of staff? What qualities makes a good member of staff, do you think? Enthusiasm, motivation, confidence. I said, let's focus on what they can control and give them stuff to do to be more enthusiastic, to be more focused, to be more gratitude for the customer. I said love for customers, too hippie-ish for them. But if you love your customers, you've not got a problem emailing, you've not got a problem supporting them. I love my customers, you know, because they help me go where I want to go and help me go where they want to go. And if at a scale of 10, with 110 being high, I can get to 9 out of 10 of all those areas, I'm going to look after itself, the KPI. So the KPI, we've got it there, but don't focus on it. Focus on what you can control. It's the same energy to be a miserable sod, you know, than to be someone who's, I'm not saying Pollyanna, the grass is green, everything's wonderful, but to have a head on you that you're motivated. Let's do it. Let's find the way. Enthusiastic, yes, you know, walk in the office, great. To be gratitude for the customer. You know, when you send your kids to school, you go on holiday, when you do all these wonderful things that some people don't never get to do, it's because your customers give you the wage. So the gratitude is important, you know? It really is. And having gratitude is good. So, and when we did that, we smashed sales records. And that gave me my insight into business. I wrote the book. I'm not going to plug the book, but I wrote the book. At the back of that, I talked about how you could do a different approach. Treat people as people. And we talk about more this afternoon, because states are key. You know, our state is key. You be a victim all day, it's going to influence your decisions. A football manager phoned me up one time, I was working in football, saying to me, at midnight he phones me up, we're playing against the Premiership team. Big Cup, League Cup. And he goes, Jim, I can't believe our flippin' luck at midnight. I said, what's our luck? He goes, oh, I've got 2 players with flu, suspensions, and I can't believe it. It always happens to us. Why us, Jim? Why me? I said, hang the phone, call me up in an hour, dude. He calls me up in an hour and he says, you know what, Jim, this is 1 in the morning. He goes, I can't believe how lucky we are. We're playing against a premiership team. We've got no pressure. It's all on them. They've got the pressure, not us. I'm going to play the kids. They're going to enjoy themselves. We're going to save the moment. We're League Two, they're premiership. Is that a different dynamic, do you think? I think so. Will that affect the way you behave? Your emotion? Yeah. Of course it will. And we all become victims. I like to feel sorry for myself sometimes, believe it or not. I do sometimes, I like to get the violin out every now and again, but just don't play the violin for too long. Life's too short for that. Stuff that. If you want a violin around you and that sort of stuff, it's your call. If you want people, to be a victim around you, you want to entertain it, then that's your call. I decided years ago, life's hard enough as it is. Don't need that. You want to move forward, we move forward. You want sympathy, then I back people. Empathy, yes. Sympathy, no, you can do it. The world has got people, most challenges in the world, they do well. There's people who've got horrendous circumstances that do well. After lunch, we're going to have a nice lunch and we'll come back. Well, you can go for a nice walk with my son and whatever. So we're going to look at the ABC model. Okay. We're going to look at the ABC model. How it's not the situation, it's our thoughts about the situation that impact our feeling, behaviour and reaction, physical reaction. So the A is the activating events. The B is beliefs about the events. Rationally, irrational, the consequences emotionally, behaviourally and physiologically. Okay, we're going to look at that and we're going to look at how we can challenge others' thoughts and our own thoughts for more productive patterns of behaviour. Okay, example, who likes parties? Anyone like parties? Okay, you love a good party. So what goes through your mind, thought-wise, do you think if you like a good party? It's going to be fun. It's your own personal experiences, isn't it? Okay, great. Meet people. You feel excited, behave, you're up for it. Physically, it all impacts. But some people dread parties. And it's their own reference frame. Their thoughts are dread social avoidance. Okay? And the same applies to any situation. It could be an interview. Who likes going for an interview?
Nobody.
But depends what you think, what thoughts go through your mind. So it could be, I'm not going to get the job. If I don't get the job, I'm going to end up living on the street. And then you feel scared, anxious, then you behave erratically. You socially avoid the interview. Physically, your heart starts beating. And the same applies to presentations. It's not the presentation, it's your thoughts around the presentation. So people might enjoy the presentation and think, great, I've got a chance to express myself, to talk about what I'm passionate about, I feel excited, I behave, I'm up for it, up in the morning early, come on, let's bring it on, I feel pumped, but I could be dreading it, thinking, oh, I know they're going to judge me, what am I going to do? I used to do a CBT training in a company that did care home, young girl who started delivering with me, in her first session got 19 good reviews, evaluations, one was negative. Following week she comes back and says to me, I can't deliver training this week, Jim. Why? I'm still stewing over that bad review. Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. I'm not good enough. I shouldn't be doing it. What am I here for? Feeling scared, feeling anxious, behaving, avoiding, physically. Jim, just the thought of speaking, my stomach's churning, Jim. I said, okay, I'm not going to do anything now. We sit to one side. I'm not going to push you, but we'll deal with this afterwards. Okay, we dealt with it. We dealt with it. She became a great speaker and still a great speaker, a great trainer, still a great trainer now. But what I'm implying is that, see, it's our thoughts about the situation. But these thoughts are automatic, and we're going to cover the triangle's useful because you can illustrate where the problems are, solutions. It provides an inroad for an intervention. These are key things. You can break down that problem to a smaller chunk. Okay, we'll talk about schemas and how early experiences influence how we feel. Young girl had an experience when she was 12-year-old. She went to school one time, she was goody two, she was very academic and got told off for not doing homework. Tell the class why you've not done homework, and she put an association of speaking people. The schema opened up. So schemas, okay, to explain a schema, a structure, reality, fact, opinion, well, it's your subjective experience. Fire hots. Okay, fire, we know the baby puts hand in fire, it's hot, it builds an association with that structure. The dog, okay, if you had a dog like this when you were 5 and it was loving, and at lunchtime you saw the same type of dog, what would you do you think? Yeah, if you got attacked by that dog at 5, what do you think you might do? Yeah, and if you sort of had no experience with that dog, what do you think you might do? Probably neutral. Who's right, who's wrong? Is it dangerous? In the eyes of Colin, who's been attacked by it, is. And Colin's telling you, no, it's dangerous. And you're saying, no, it's not. What's wrong? So we can be idiosyncratic, and if the person believes in the green man, then the green man. So we normalise behaviour, the brain's working well. It's Colin's experience. But it's his experience, it's not reality. Okay? So if I measure this room and it's 10 metres and the tape measures, is that fact? Pretty much is. If I say it's a long way, is it a long way? It could be if you've got arthritis, you've got a condition medically, or if it's on a big building, 1 million feet high, and you've got to go across, it could be daunting. So it's fact opinion, but it might not be if you're, the top athlete. So what I'm saying is that your thoughts that you have today, or the ones you had yesterday and the ones you have today, you have about 60,000 thoughts per day. On average, I'm not counting them. And most of them are reoffenders if you don't consciously stop and analyse your thoughts. Okay? And this afternoon, we're going to do some exercises that work around this area. Okay? We're going to look at distorted thinking, irrational thoughts that influence our emotion. We all experience them. Some more than others, some cause more maladaptive behaviours than others. Touch on that. It was a concept in CBT by Aaron Beck, and it was popularised by David Burns. Automatic thoughts. They're automatic, meaning that we don't, not even aware of them, they just crop up. Because the brain being implicit. Okay? And there were 10. There's more than 10, but David Burns, I believe, in his book, The Feeling Good Handbook, 10 main ones. Okay? So the young girl I mentioned earlier, the training, it was for her, what she was doing, emotional reasoning. I can feel it, Jim. They just won't like me. I can feel it. How do you know? I just feel it. Is it fact or it's opinion, isn't it? Mental filter. You've got 19 good reviews. And you're focusing on the one that's bad. You've got 19 good ones. What you're overgeneralizing. I'm never going to be a trainer, Jim. So this sort of gives you a flavour of it. And these are important because, okay, you're not going to be therapists. Some of you might come to therapy, some of you are therapists, but from a coaching point of view, it's quite useful too. And we'll go into it. We're going to look at ways we can challenge it. We're going to look at ways that we can perceive reality. Because you could have an interview coming up, you could have a presentation coming up, we've got these beliefs about ourselves, the world and others. And what's really quite useful there, I think, for me, in my opinion, is to be able to be more self-aware and challenge ourselves. And also we can listen in to other people too. Okay? We can look at ways to challenge them and restructure our thought process. We know our thoughts impact our feeling, our feelings impact our behaviour impacts our physiology. What I would suggest to do for me is we could also look at ways that we can apply interventions in different areas. So when I challenge a thought, I might use questioning techniques, arrow model, meta model, belief change techniques, Slater Mount, all these things I can use for the thought process. Believe I can do techniques around. I can do regression, feeling. I can talk about the feeling. I've got exercise I can do around feeling, emotion, behavioural strategies. Loads of them in NLP, loads of them in CBT. I can do physical techniques, breathing. Breathe deeper. It calms the sympathetic nervous system down. The parasympathetic kicks in. Works the speech to the muscle. We breathe deeper as a biochemical effect for people. Going for walks. I can strike at every level. So when I'm talking task to be experiential, as a coach or even as a therapist, it's quite useful. It's a good model to understand, and it's quite useful, I think, in coaching in the sense that, okay, we're not going to cross the boundary between clinical performance. What we can do, if the person has a clinical issue, maybe you refer to the appropriate person. But what you might want to do, if it's a performance-related issue, then you can get an idea of what's going through their head, and they can restructure that and go forward. So after the break, we're going to go into in more detail. We're going to break for lunch. It's 1:35, okay, everybody?